Yes, sir.
Yeah, getting back to the recording.
Please.
Three questions. What kind of bass amp? What kind of mic on the bass amp? And during the chorus, it sounded to me like you weren't going through that little orange anymore on the guitar.
No. Don't get it confused. We're talking about guitars, separate issue from bass, separate issue, separate amps, completely different, nothing to do with each other. I was just mentioning the orange just for the guitars, not for the bass guitar.
But when the guitar went into the chorus, it sounded to me like it was a different amp than what you used during the verse.
No, it's the same amp.
Really?
Yeah, that's the trick of that. But to answer your question about the bass guitar,
right.
It's 810s. It's what's the best tube amplifier? Thank you. That's what it is. You can't go wrong. It is like the gold standard. Now, interestingly enough, excuse me, beg your pardon. There's a great microphone, actually Sweetwater sells, called the KSM32. It is a happening bass amp mic. I've used it many occasions. I use it on this, and it's great.
What's it again?
KSM32, sure. And that's not because I had a hand in the design of it and the 44, but seriously, it's a great microphone. It's inexpensive, and it does work really well. And I've used, I put up, a 47 FET, which is a very expensive, great mic, but somehow, like, there's a punch from the 32 that I really use that a lot. DI, obviously. Two compressors, one on the DI, one on the amp. And then when it gets to that thumpy part, that's an overdub that I created myself and put underneath. Yeah. So.
Do you like active or passive DIs better than bass?
Well, the DI that I use when I'm here in the States is a Millennia, which I have, which is the most marvelous thing. It's killer. But there are many passive ones. The Countryman. There's about 20 gazillion different DI boxes. It depends on the bass player, how good he is, what preamp you're going into, what are you going into after the preamp. You're going into a nice LA2A or a plug-in or whatever. Yes. Okay. Yes, sir. Can you stand up, please?
What was your favorite band or artist to work with?
Favorite band? Well, I think hands down it's going to have to be Jimmy. Only because the man was such a genius, and I was really lucky. I was really privileged to work with somebody as good as that. And he was a cool guy in the studio. He was really funny. He used to make terrible jokes. He used to stick the needle in, He would rib me and Noel and Mitch, and then he would take the mickey out of himself too. He was very funny in the studio. He was just like kept the session light. But he was a genius in the sense that he had a very clear vision of what he wanted to do. Like when he walked in the studio and he played a song, he knew exactly what that thing was going to sound like when it was finished. The same way when I listened to it and he played it for me, I go, okay, I know what you're going for. And I had a vision of what it would sound like. He had a vision of what it would be. So we were very lucky we were able to work together. And we all miss it. Sir, yes?
Yeah. How did you come to work with Kiss? You produced their original demo back in
Oh, dear, that's a horribly funny story.
Yeah.
How did I work with Kiss? Let me see. I did their demo, which got them their record deal, and then they went on the road. And, they did their thing, and they had a lot of fans. They had about 300,000 fans. And the record company was going down the toilet rapidly, which is Casablanca Records. And I got this phone call from Neil Bogart, who was the president of the label. And he said, listen, we want to do a live album with Kiss, because they got a lot of fans. We figured, how could we do a live thing? And sitting on my desk, I said, Neil, can I call you back? I have to think about this. Sitting on my desk was a demo tape from a band called Boston. So now I'm going, Boston, Kiss. Boston, Kiss. What do I do? I'm going to do Kiss. First of all, they can't play worth a crap. They can't sing worth a crap. I like the challenge of that. So that's what I did, and I called him back. And no, actually, no. Before I called him back, I called Tom Schultz, the guy from Boston. I said, Tom, put the record out the way it is, because it was genius. I mean, I said, I can't add anything to this. It's really brilliant. Then I called him back and said, I'm going to do it, and that's how it started. But that album, that Kiss Alive album, nothing was left from the live performance except the drums. Everything else was overdubbed. Don't tell anybody.
Two things. First of all, I noticed you boost your EQ. Almost everything I saw up there seemed to be boosted as opposed to cut. I was wondering if you could discuss your theory on that.
Why cut when you can boost? I mean, it's there. Just crank the button. No. I mean, here's the deal. When I'm cutting tracks, I always EQ directly to tape. Everything is done like that. It's just the way I've always done it. And that's just me personally. Now, I know a lot of people like to say before afterwards. To me, that's a waste of time, because you're going to be sitting there with 50, 60, 70, 100 tracks. Oh, what do I do now? Oh, no, I have a decision to make. Make the decision while you're doing it. You're sitting there, you're listening to it, you get inspired, you make the commitment, you print it. Done. Next. See you later. That's the reason. And yes, the boosts are there to bring presence and to give it more.
Do you feel like you're using the tool more when you boost as well?
Meaning which?
Well, I mean, if you have a Neve EQ and you boost it as opposed to cutting it, are you hearing more of the Neve?
I'm hearing what I want to hear. I'm not so much, I don't care what equalizer, whether it's an SSL or a Neve or an API. The reason that the EQ is there is for a specific purpose. It's tonally shaping the guitar or the vocal so that when you put the whole mix together, you can hear everything. And when it goes to radio, not much radio left, but when it does go there or it goes to CD, not many of those left, when it goes to MP3, oh God, MP3s, Anyway, the reason is it's there to give presence and to make it sit correctly within the framework of everything else.
And second question.
Yes.
In discussions I've had with other engineers, they must have taken a million years to get that drum sound or mic placement, all that kind of thing. Do you depend on the musician more, like we were saying earlier?
It takes me 20 minutes to get a drum sound. If I don't get it in 20 minutes, I walk. That drum sound was gotten in 20 minutes. The basic drum sound. Yeah, I tweaked it more beyond that, but if it takes you more than 20, you're in the wrong place or the wrong business or the wrong time. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. You've got to have a great sounding room. I beg your pardon. Let me go back. You have to have a great drummer. It sort of starts and ends there almost. But you have to have a great drummer, a good sounding kit, a really nice sounding room, some decent mics, great mic pre's, and, put the fader. The cool thing about a great sounding room like Capitol or any one of, I just use Capitol Bullet because it's just one of those rooms. You just put the fader up, put the mic up, and there's the sound without any EQ. And then you just have a little bit of EQ. That's wonderful. Yeah, yes, sir.
Any chance to work with Jimmy Page in the future on some of his archival Zeppelin releases, and will you ever see any of that film footage from the Zeppelin 2 sessions? Is that a loaded question?
He said, It's a difficult thing with Mr. Page. Mr. Page, or Pagey as some people like to call him, is a man who doesn't want to say yes to anything unless it's his idea. If he wants to do it, great. If he doesn't, never gonna happen. And I admire, talking about that, I admire Robert Plant for not wanting the tour to go on. I think that's a great idea. It's done, it's finished. Next. It was a nice thing that they did. See you later. I mean, the guy is what? Almost my age. Okay, yes, sir, over there.
Yeah, on your tom miking, or do you use close miking, or do you rely on the room mics, and do you use
No, close miking.
to gate them, or?
I try not to gate them, but once again, he has a great set of microphones made by Shure called the SM98s. Anybody know them? the little miniature condenser mics, they reject cymbals like crazy, which is why I use them. They're really meant for PA work, but I like to use them on the toms. If you can get those, 421s. If you can't get those, just go really expensive and put a 3 67s at $10,000 a piece. No. I like the SM80.
Do you use the hypercardial
Yeah.
capsule on top of them? Because they stopped selling those. And
Yes.
You can't buy them.
You can't buy them anywhere. It's true.
You can get the 98 with the capsule to make them hypercardial.
That's absolutely, he's absolutely correct. I don't use the hypercardioid as much. I mean, I think in a PA world situation, yes, but the regular cardioid's fine. Sir.
What's your feeling between the sound quality of CDs and vinyl?
What's the difference between CDs and vinyl?
Well, what's your feelings on it?
Well, you can tell by my hoot of derision. There is no comparison. I mean, album vinyl sounds brilliant. CD's still 16 bits, and they're okay, you know, not bad. But I think we're coming into an age where, you know, we're going to have, I mean, if you look at the way computers are being made today, there's going to be no more moving parts, right? Isn't that true? And I think we're going to have something in the next few years that's going to rival vinyl, that you'll be able to imprint that type of aura that the vinyl has. I hope so. Because, I mean, vinyl sounds great. I love it. I think it's the most marvelous sounding way to listen to music. But it's expensive. In the back there, yes. Well, somebody who hasn't asked a question, gentleman with the blue shirt.
You know, he didn't have all these DSPs and all these buttons and all these, you know, gadgets, digital stuff that we have today. Do you feel that with, not to knock Pro Tools, but with Pro Tools and digital recording and all the DSPs and the foot switches and stuff, that's kind of taken something away from the artistry that a guy like Jimi Hendrix had, and nowadays it's about some guy in the studio pushing buttons, and you alluded earlier to bands that they can't play live because when they record, they're punching in and punching out and doing multi-tracks, and they can't play together. What are your feelings on that in general?
Well, you're right, but I think just let's jump ahead for a moment and pretend that Jimi Hendrix was still alive. He would have probably embraced every bit of the technology and then some, because he was always pushing us to be more far out. And he encouraged, he and Chaz, Chaz Chandler, who was his producer, said, the rules are, there are no rules. And that's the case with Jimmy. I mean, he was you saw that picture of him at the board. He loved technology. He loved the fact that he could manipulate sound. So he would not have been scared of this technology. I think he would have embraced it and maybe helped make it better. That would be my opinion on that one. And did you say, are we done here? Or are we almost
Well,
done?
that's a good time to have me cut in.
All right.
How about a hand for Mr. Eddie Kramer? What a great deal, huh? Thank you, Eddie.